Well, welcome back to the When I Heard This podcast. My name is Nate Robinsoff, here with Pastor Joseph Tillman, MDiv, soon to be Demon. How are you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. We just celebrated my wife's birthday.
Cool.
That was fun.
How old is she?
I'm not saying.
Okay.
Yep. But she is awesome and wonderful and beautiful. So
You're not supposed to ask a woman how old she is, but what if you ask a man how old a woman is?
still don't answer.
Still bad?
Well, at least for me, I'm not answering.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to give that answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Not doing it.
All right. Today we're talking about something completely different.
Completely different.
Today we're talking about martyrdom.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It came up in an episode.
In our little election thing.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
The election thing.
So we should talk about this.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that part again, and that's going to be the longest clip.
Right. Sounds good.
Cool. We'll go to Patreon 5. I'm going to get this right this time.
Okay. We'll see.
I got to do better.
Well, yeah.
Go to Patreon $5. Like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at When I Heard This Podcast, and X and Locals at When I Heard This. Tell everyone that you know about the show. Ring the notification bell and go to the website where there's t-shirts.
Well done.
Yeah, that's right.
There it is.
100.
There it is.
Whatever episodes
We
in.
just
I
need to-
finally got it.
We just need to take that and insert it into every episode.
Yeah.
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 But we were not going to, are we?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd have to wear black shirts for every other episode ever.
Right. But don't you do that pretty much anyway?
Yeah.
So,
All right, martyrdom.
yes, sir.
Killing yourself for Jesus.
Okay. Well, we'll go into actually what it is. It's not completely accurate. But,
Whatever.
okay.
This is why we do this.
This is.
Because at the beginning of the episode, I'm wrong.
Right.
And by the end of the episode, I'm still wrong.
That is how a lot of these episodes go.
Okay, so martyrdom.
Yes, sir.
What is a martyrdom?
What is a martyrdom? Okay. So, in general, a martyr is someone who has been killed for their religious beliefs or other beliefs that they may hold. And so, therefore, martyrdom is the death of a martyr or death of someone who was, killed for their religious beliefs.
Okay.
And most religions will speak about having martyrs for their religion.
All right.
Yeah. So that's what it is.
So okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what Bible verses talk about martyrdom?
Okay. So now we're going to narrow it down to more Christian martyrdom, right?
Yeah, but then later I'm going to ask you some other questions about other
Okay.
religion
That's
stuff.
fair. That's fair. Yeah. So in terms of like Bible verses that mention the ideas of martyrs,
Mm-hmm.
we're really going to the book of Revelation at that point. But before I do that, I want to
Really?
Yeah. Like the idea of like a martyr is most clearly seen in Revelation, but not that there's not martyrdoms that happen for example, in the book of Acts, and we'll get to that. But that's where your idea of martyrs really talked about. So, but what I want to do is back up actually to Acts chapter 1, verse 8. So in Acts 1:8, it says that when it says, "You will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." So you'll be my witnesses. And it's that word witness that I want to highlight, because the word witness or is translated in English as witness actually comes from the Greek word of martus, of martyr. And so what's happened is that the meaning of that word actually changed over time. So it moved from one who was giving witness or giving testimony about Christ to eventually one who is being persecuted for their faith, and then finally the one who actually dies for their faith.
So it used to just mean that you were telling people about Jesus?
Yeah.
And that's all being a martyr was?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so the word...
All right, fine. You might be changing my mind.
So if that's the word, like deriving that word that, again, we translate as witness today, it's in Acts 1:8, it's really martus, it's martyr. That's where we get the word martyr from too. And so the idea that...
So when you take a group of missionaries to somewhere, you can just be like, let's go be martyrs.
Yeah. I mean, although I wouldn't use the word that way. Okay.
But it's biblical too.
But it's biblical. I could say, yeah, and I would probably lean more toward the way they translate it. Let's go be witnesses.
Okay.
And in being witnesses, you may end up being persecuted, or you actually may end up being martyred. Yeah. And so, and it really coincides with the progression of Christianity. So in Christianity, first they were just witnesses, and then they were persecuted, and finally they began to be martyred. And so that word began to change with the progression of Christianity, as Christians eventually moved to the point to where they were actually being killed for their faith.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but we do see martyrs in the Bible. So we do see acts of martyrdom and individuals who are martyred. So do you know who the first martyr was in Christianity?
Jesus.
No.
Abel.
No.
Why not?
Okay. Abel was just killed by his brother.
Yeah, for being better at Jesus stuff than Cain was.
No, Cain was just mad that Abel's sacrifices had been accepted, but not his.
So okay, I'm going to get this.
All right. So New Testament, early church.
Jesus' dad.
No, Jesus' dad actually passed away before Jesus did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right.
I don't know.
I know. So in Acts 7, verses 58 through 60, we see the martyrdom of Stephen.
Saul before he came Paul. Before he was Paul.
No, although he was martyred, but no. This happens before.
I hate this game.
So this happens actually before Saul even comes to know Christ.
Okay.
And in fact, Saul's present there at this martyrdom because he is the one who okayed it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't know if it's cool, but yeah, it's cool in the sense of
what a way to turn your life around.
Yeah. Yep. Major life change.
Yep.
Right. So this is what it says about Stephen. It says they dragged him out of the city and began to stone him. And the witnesses laid their garments at the feet of a young man named Saul. And while they were stoning Stephen, he called out, "Lord Jesus, receive my spirit." He knelt down, cried out with a loud voice, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." And after saying this, he fell asleep, or he died. So, so that is actually the first martyrdom that's recorded in the Gospels, or in the New Testament.
What about all the kids that died in Egypt when Pharaoh wouldn't let the people go?
Right.
Martyrs.
No, not martyrs. They were just unfortunately killed because of a psycho Pharaoh.
I'm going to read the whole Bible again and go find some more martyrs that you forgot.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right. So Stephen's the first one. And it's because we're talking about martyrs in Christianity, right?
Yes.
So not just like, right. Obviously there were.
Oh, in okay.
Right. Obviously there were a lot of individuals that you could say were killed when you go back to Judaism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jew martyrs.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And so, but for Christianity, the first martyr is Stephen. And then James was actually the first among the apostles to be martyred. So Stephen's martyred,
okay.
And then James is martyred in Acts chapter 12. And so, and again, that was the first among the apostles that had been there with Jesus.
So in Acts, all the disciples get murdered.
No, it doesn't record all of them being martyred, although, and we'll get to it in a little bit, although most of them were martyred.
Okay.
In fact, all of them, but one was. So
lucky.
Yeah. Well,
he didn't believe. Well,
no. Well, we'll talk about
Judas.
No. Well, Judas, but okay. And then there's another one as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a little bit. But
Judas martyred himself.
No. No, Judas unfortunately committed suicide.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
or fortunately, depending on
your viewpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say unfortunately that anyone took their life. So, and no, he was not a martyr. He committed suicide.
Was it unfortunate when Hitler took his life?
Was it unfortunate that Hitler took his life? I'd say it's unfortunate when anyone takes their life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Clip that, ladies and gentlemen.
But because he was going to be arrested anyway, right? And then
killed.
Yeah, or killed.
Yeah.
And so, it wasn't like he was going to continue his reign.
Yeah.
He didn't have to commit suicide.
It is unfortunate because we could have killed him. America could have killed him.
America. So, no, we're not going to go down that road. All right. So, in Revelation chapter 6 is what I mentioned earlier in regards to martyrdom and scripture and how you really kind of see like it more just kind of here, like in your face a little bit. So in Revelation chapter 6, I'm going to begin in verse 9. It says, "When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slaughtered because of the word of God and the testimony they had given." So individuals that had been killed because of their testimony of the gospel. "So they cried out with a loud voice, 'Lord, the one who is holy and true, how long until you judge those who live on the earth and avenge our blood?' So they were each given a white robe, and they were told to rest a little longer until the number would be completed of their fellow servants and their brothers and sisters who were going to be killed just as they had been."
Oh.
And so
martyrs.
Yeah, martyrs.
Revelation.
Martyrs. And so in Revelation here, we have it, obviously there's a group of martyrs that are already there, and God's saying, and there's going to be martyrs to come.
A group of martyrs that were already there?
In heaven. Mm-hmm. That had already been killed.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're crying out unto the Lord.
It's not like, let's go, martyrs.
Yeah. No. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Was Jesus a martyr?
Was Jesus a martyr? Okay, so that's a pretty good question. Jesus was obviously killed.
Yep.
For what he believed, and specifically about what he believed about himself. Right? He believed he was Messiah, Son of God, and so he was obviously killed for that. Would I say Jesus was a martyr? It's interesting because they're wanting, like the Pharisees and Sadducees, the Herodians, everyone that got together that were like, we want to see this guy killed, right? They were upset and they wanted him killed because they thought he was blaspheming, right? Because he was saying things that alluded to him being the Messiah, that he was God, Son of God, and they were like, no way, this is not. We're killing you for making false claims. So he was put, because he went through trial and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so he was really being killed for what they believed were him making blasphemous claims.
Right.
And that's why, above, Jesus, it was, King of the Jews, right? Because that was the idea of, hey, you think you're the king of the Jews.
Sarcasm.
Right. Sarcasm. Or Caesar going, or excuse me, not Caesar, but Pontius Pilate saying, well, this is the charge that's been laid against you. Right. Right. And Jesus doesn't deny it. This is all right. I am. And so, anyway, so he's killed. So he's a martyr, I guess you would say, in the sense that, yes, he was a martyr because he was killed for who he claimed to be, which was true, actually.
Okay.
But I don't know if you would say he's like obviously he wouldn't be like a Christian martyr, since for Christians, all of our faith is in following Jesus, the Messiah.
But that was his last name.
Well, no, not a last name. And a lot of people think that. It's actually a title, right?
Okay.
So the word Christ means Messiah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I don't know. That's a good question. It's a good question. I can see people answering it both ways.
So you don't have an answer for this?
No, I think, I wouldn't say he was a martyr, again, in the sense of like, he's not a martyr in the sense of like, for Christians, because of what we're saying we believe in, but I guess he would be a martyr because he is dying for what he believes to be true. Now, again,
but he was also trying to die.
Well,
he came
to die.
He came to die.
Right. He knew death was going to be the end result.
Right.
Right. I mean, and even prophesies about it, right? Like,
but then he came back to life, so it didn't count.
Right.
So he's not a martyr.
Did he undid the martyrdom when he came back?
Okay. So even if it did happen, it doesn't matter. Are there any other famous Christian martyrs?
So focusing on martyrs, true Christian martyrs that aren't in the Bible. That's the question, right?
Yep.
All right. So there's a book, and some people may have heard of it. It's called John Fox's Book of Martyrs. And so it actually gives an account of like martyrs that happened in the early church, and then into Protestantism. So, for example, it records like the martyrdom of the remaining apostles. So, for example, James, we know, died in Scripture, but then it records the martyrdom of the other apostles as well, and specifically how they died, like how they died, where they died, when they died. It includes the martyrdom of other individuals outside of the apostles, like Paul and Barnabas and Luke. So it starts off obviously with like Stephen, who we said was the first martyr, and then goes to James, who we know is the next one. And then it talks about how Philip was actually martyred. And Philip was one of the original apostles, but he was one of the, like Stephen, chosen as one of the 7 deacons in the early church. Matthew, who was with Jesus, when he was slain in AD 60.
So all this is extra biblical.
Okay. Where you have these accounts, and so you're taking it from other historical accounts that are happening at that time.
Okay.
And so you've got individuals, even like Jesus' brother, James, who wrote the letter of James that we have in our New Testament. And so he was actually, at least the way that history records it, he was 94 and beaten and stoned. And so he was martyred, Matthias, Andrew, and it records some others. For example, like Peter, and probably the most famous thing it talks about with Peter is that Peter was actually crucified upside down. So because he didn't believe he was worthy to be crucified in the same manner that Christ was, so he was actually asked to be crucified upside down when they crucified him.
Like the crossbar was on the lower part?
Correct.
Oh.
Yep. And then of
Wouldn't
course,
that not work though?
What's that? Oh, because of like the weight?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. That's the way the history records it.
Did they nail him in some other places too?
Yeah. I mean, well, obviously he would have been nailed to his feet upward, right?
Yeah, but you could just pull your feet and rip your feet.
Yeah, but
and fall over.
Yeah, but obviously that's not what happened.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't know how much quicker it would have, died. And then it talks about Jude being crucified in 72, and then one of the interesting ones is Thomas. And there's because the history says that Thomas, who we often refer to as Doubting Thomas, but Thomas actually went to India and he was killed there in India. Okay. And so like when I was visiting India, that was a really big thing. Thomas came to India and Thomas was martyred here. And so that it records that he actually was like a spear went through him, that someone killed him with a spear. And so, and same thing, with the other martyrs of Luke and Simon, and then eventually John. Now, the interesting thing about John is that, again,
which John? First John?
John that wrote
Third John?
John that was with Jesus, the brother of James, that wrote the Gospel of John, that wrote First, Second, Third John, and that wrote the Book of Revelation.
Oh,
that John. So
is he the one in Revelation, or is
yes?
Okay,
yes. And so Yeah, so he's giving his account of it. And so it's actually said about John that he was actually thrown into this cauldron of boiling oil, but then like miraculously, basically just got up and walked out,
and then did a revelation.
Yeah, right, and then like escaped, without injury, but then died later on,
like Shamrock, Meshach, and to bed we go, or whatever their names were.
Okay. Well,
kind of like that.
You got the story close. Names a little off.
How they were burning and
like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So yes, very similar to that.
Okay.
Yep. And then it records Barnabas being killed, and so, and then it talks about like the history of Christian persecutions and martyrdoms that happened under like Nero, for example. That was like the first big kind of like widespread persecutions of the Christians.
Why did the Romans have such cool names for people?
Like Nero?
Yeah.
It's just
dope.
They just had different names.
I like it.
Okay.
I mean, he was a bad guy, I guess.
Right.
But,
yeah. But like then the next one was under Domitian. And so.
See, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so. Constantine, that's a cool name.
Right. Yeah, they definitely had different names.
Yeah, I like it.
So, all right. So anyway, I'm not going to go through all of it, but so it gives a long history, an account of individuals who died. So if anyone's interested, I would definitely go check out Fox's Book of Martyrs.
Okay.
Because it gives a great, kind of history overview of individuals that did die. Probably one of the more famous ones that died like in our modern day.
Let me guess. The one who went to somewhere in South America or Africa or somebody, and he was a missionary, and they cut him and his family up and threw it in the river or something.
That might have happened too.
Okay.
But obviously, and you may get the stories a little mixed up here, but Jim Elliot, I don't know if you've
guy.
Yeah,
they made a movie about him.
Into the Spear.
That's
yes. So
it
wasn't he and his family. It was he and his friends.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was like a whole thing in the 90s, and everyone was like, "You have to watch this movie."
Right. So I actually know the guy who is the casting director of that movie, by the way.
Oh.
And they actually filmed down there on location.
Cool.
And because the villagers who
wait, really?
Yeah, the village that ended up killing Jim Elliot and the other missionaries that were with him,
they wanted to play themselves.
They actually came to know Christ.
Oh.
Yeah. And so it's a really fun, the story is phenomenal. So if you get a chance actually to watch the movie called Into the Spear, go watch it. It's an incredible account of what happens with Jim Elliot, some other missionaries who were killed for sharing their faith. They were martyred.
That movie shouldn't have come out.
Why?
Because it turned a lot of people off from wanting to be missionaries, including myself.
Okay. You just kind of ended
I ain't going.
Right. Well, at least you knew that's not what I wanted. You didn't want to sign up for that, so that's good. So, and then a little bit more modern, like getting into like the late 90s, 1999 to be exact. Graham Staines, who was a missionary from Australia, and you've probably maybe not heard of this.
No.
He and his two sons were actually burned alive in India.
Okay.
And
they didn't run out and not die.
Yeah. Well, actually, they actually trapped them in their car.
Oh.
Yeah, and set the car on fire, and
that's not believable.
And they were burned alive.
Those things unlock from the inside.
Yeah, they wouldn't let him get out. So Graham and his two sons died. And actually, so the very first time I went to India, we were in Calcutta, and I was doing a conference there with about 100 pastors from all over India. And there was this group of pastors, and they were just different.
There's that much Christianity in India?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yeah, you have the state in India that Thomas is kind of historically thought to have gone to is almost completely Christian.
Oh.
Yeah. But obviously Hinduism is the primary religion there. But yeah, no, you have Christians all throughout. But so I was at this conference. There's about 100 pastors gathered, but there's this one group of guys that were just all different. Like, I can't explain it. I just had this joy and this like excitement about life and being there and being together. Like they literally just like stood out. Like it was just it was interesting. So I actually went to the director of the conference and I said, "Hey, what's the deal? Well, basically, what's the deal with these guys? Like they're carrying themselves differently than everybody else. There's this like joy about them. Like, what's the deal with them?" And he just looked at me and he said, "Oh, they're from Orissa." Like that was supposed to mean something, I guess, to me. I just didn't know at the time. And I said, I don't know what that means. And he said, "Well, Orissa is the place where missionary Graham was killed with his two sons."
Oh.
And I didn't know the story. And so then Pastor Marcus begins to tell me the story, and I'm listening to the story, and he's like, and so these guys, when they got on the train to come to here, so at that point in time, kind of radical Hinduism was really growing in India at that point, especially in some of these areas.
What does radical Hinduism do?
Kill Christians.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Same, and kill Muslims.
I didn't know they could be radical.
Yeah.
I thought they just sat quietly.
Right. No, there's a radical version of Hinduism.
Okay.
Yeah, that has become violent. And so anyway, so he was telling me about them, and he said, so when these pastors, it was like a big group, it was like, I don't know, 6 guys or so. He said when they got on their train to come here, they honestly don't know if when they go back, if they'll be killed right there on the spot. They don't know if their families are safe right now. They don't know. And yet they were still like, they had this like joy that was just like unreal. And he said, but it's, they don't know if tomorrow's promised. They know they may end up being killed. Some of their friends have been killed. And they're willing to go and die for Jesus. And it was so like unbelievably just humbling to sit there and hear the stories, listen about these guys. And so that was kind of like my first encounter with, hearing stories and being around some people who experienced some stuff. And then several years ago, I met another missionary from Operation Mobilization. His name is Gary Witherall. And Gary was friends with a couple of missionaries from OM that I'm close with. And so I got to meet Gary. And Gary and his wife were actually in Lebanon after 9/11, or like when 9/11 happened.
Okay. And
they stayed there afterwards. And his wife ended up being shot and killed by individuals who they knew that they were sharing the gospel.
Oh. And
they didn't like the fact that young Muslims in particular were hearing the gospel. They didn't like that. And they knew the risk. They knew that there was a high chance of some type of retaliation against them. And one morning, I believe it was a morning, while Bonnie, that's Gary's wife, was at the clinic. They did a health clinic as well. While she was at the clinic, she was shot. Someone came in and shot and killed her. And so that was 2002. And then just again, getting to hear Gary, getting to hear his story, talking to him, he shared with a group of us. And anyway, it's really powerful to hear these type of stories. And most people probably have never heard of Gary Witherall or Bonnie, his wife Bonnie, who passed away and or was martyred. And you may not have heard of Graham and his sons, but reality is like martyrdom is happening presently throughout the world, and it's happening right now. I mean, and there's countries that the individuals know that if they are following Jesus, that their literal lives are in jeopardy because of it. And
like ours are right now.
Yet, nope, nothing like America. And it does put, for me, it does put the hysteria of what's going on in America into perspective, and going, we probably shouldn't be that quite that hysterical. So
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're on the internet. Internet makes martyring people easier.
Apparently. So, all right. One last person I'm going to bring up.
Okay.
And he's kind of debated of whether he's a martyr or not. So his name is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and maybe you never heard of him.
Nope.
So Dietrich, man. So there's actually a movie coming out the day after Thanksgiving called Bonhoeffer, and I think it's titled Pastor, Spy, Assassin, something like that.
He's from World War II.
Yeah. Yep. And so, lived during that time.
Yeah.
And so, so he was a German pastor and theologian. He was executed in 1945 as Germany is beginning to fall. Okay. And so, and he actually is considered a martyr by several different denominations. I know the Anglican Church, the UMC, consider him a martyr.
Okay.
And so, but he was arrested actually and executed not for his faith per se, but because of a failed assassination attempt on Hitler. So he had joined with a group of others that had devised an assassination plan on Hitler, and it was exposed. He was arrested.
Hitler was a martyr.
And no.
So the martyr in the movie was Hitler.
No.
For believing what he believed.
No. Just no. Terrorist. All right. Or whatever we want to say. All right. So he was part of the plan, but he was doing so actually, whether you agree with him or not agree with him, because of his view of faith and church and what he saw was happening. Not just even for the church, but for the Jews as well. Like, he just believed that what was happening required this kind of radical step and intervention. And so it's questioned if he was actually executed for his faith, which would have made him a martyr.
Okay.
Or was he executed again for what would have been deemed like a political stand, right? So which would not necessarily make him a Christian martyr.
Hey, when you write about killing me, could you put faith first and try to execute Hitler second? Because I want to be talked about longer.
Right. No, but Bonhoeffer was awesome, dude. And so there's a book out there by Eric Metaxas called Bonhoeffer, and it's, I don't know, 500-600 pages long.
What denomination was he?
Was Bonhoeffer? That's a good question. What was the name of that? I'm guessing it was just the German Christian Church, but I'll look that up. But Bonhoeffer, the most well-known book is called Cost of Discipleship.
He wrote it?
Yeah, he wrote that.
Oh.
And so he wrote several books.
Oh.
And he was a young guy. He was still in his 30s when he was killed. Was a brilliant individual, actually came and studied here in America for a while, and then went back to Germany. And at one point, everything was happening with the church, and he was in England, and he came back. And anyway, it was just so interesting. But anyway, his life is amazing. His stances were incredible for what he believed about
his stances,
his stance on Christianity, his stance for Christianity, his stance for discipleship. So he actually blamed a lot of what was going on in Germany at that time and the rise of Nazism with the confessing church not making a stand and doing what the church should have been doing and making disciples.
And not Nazis.
Well, yeah. And then a lot of the churches folded or started to kind of bend a knee, if you were, to Hitler and to Nazism in the sense of compromising.
What a bunch of maybe the most failed Christians ever.
Oh, in Germany?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so
besides the ones that killed Jesus.
Yeah. So he was one of the founding members of the Confessing Church. And that was what I kind of, and so they were very much like an anti-Nazi group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, but also what they believed, not just anti-Nazis,
far left
they were
extremists.
No. Yeah. Well, the Nazis were the crazies. But anyway, the standing in and also standing in more orthodox Christian faith. And so, believing the Bible was true. Because they're in Germany, you have to understand, like in Germany in the 1800s, liberal theology had really swept through the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so it had gone from a country that was very orthodox in its faith and belief, and now became very liberal in their understanding of the scriptures. And Bonhoeffer was wanting to kind of move the church back to being more biblical in its basis, more orthodox.
Okay.
And so, and hence the confessing church, which also...
But he also wanted to kill Hitler.
But at the end of the day, yeah, he thought that was best.
Okay.
So anyway, Bonhoeffer is an interesting one. Go catch the movie, the day after Thanksgiving. I can't wait to go watch it. So,
cool.
Yeah. So anyway, those are some martyrs.
Do you have to be all the way murdered to be a martyr?
Okay. Like killed.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the way I would understand it.
Because,
yes.
Okay, so if I'm getting tortured for my faith.
Right.
Does that not make me a martyr?
No, it just makes
just makes me tortured.
It makes you as one who's experiencing persecution.
Okay.
Like, so for example, Paul, and so in 2 Corinthians 11, I'm going to pull this up real quick.
What if I get martyred, but then doctors zap me back to life? What if my heart stops all the way and then I come back?
No.
Did I get martyred and now I'm here again?
No.
Guess who lived?
Yeah, you lived. So
okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry. And so
what if I actually die?
Okay.
But then God sends me back to earth. Did I get martyred?
Okay. You mean like by sin
like
back to
Lazarus.
Earth, right. So you were resurrected.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good question. Like,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, if you just didn't remain dead, are you still a martyr?
Yeah. That's why Jesus wasn't a martyr.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting question. I don't know how to, yeah. I'm sure there'd be a lot of different opinions about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comment below.
Right. All right. So let me kind of express why death actually needs to be part of the equation for martyrdom to be martyrdom.
Okay.
So this is what Paul says, all right, in 2 Corinthians 11.
Oh, there's biblical
verse 24
explanations for this?
Well, this is what he says. He says, 5 times I received the 40 lashes, minus 1 from the Jews. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I received a stoning. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I have spent a night and a day in the open sea. On frequent journeys, I faced dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my own people, and all the dangers.
How is he still alive?
And so, yeah. And so, but kind of that very first part of the idea that, hey, I have been beaten. I have been stoned, all for proclaiming the gospel. But he didn't see himself as a martyr at that point.
This sounds like the beginning of a country song.
This is persecution. I'm sure it has been the beginning of a country song.
Beat.
So no, I would say they've been persecuted, but I wouldn't say they've been martyred.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Christian people love martyrs so hard.
Okay.
It's like the best thing that you could be.
Okay.
It's like you should live every day trying to get yourself martyred.
Okay.
So why? Why do they love martyrs so much? Why do we have to make movies only about the people that died for Jesus?
Right.
And not the people who lived because they were better? Why is dying better?
Right.
I don't get it.
Okay. All right. Because it's interesting to I remember when I was younger, I was in college, and I remember having this sense of I'm going to be killed for my faith.
Yeah.
Right?
Dumb.
Right. And I remember I think I'm going to die. And I remember, so I can actually remember I was in Brazil, and I wasn't in any harm or danger in Brazil anyway, but I was in Brazil on a mission trip. And I remember being down there with my dad and my brother, and I remember telling them, I think I'm going to be martyred one day. and my dad looked at me and goes, son, that's not something you want to tell your father, right? And so, but I remember the sense of I think I'm going to go serve as a missionary, and I'm going to be killed.
Okay.
And maybe that'll still happen. I'm still very open to that, but
you're open to getting killed?
Yeah.
Well, okay, fine.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm open to getting killed too.
Right.
But whatever.
Right. So I was in a South American country one time, and
they were like, "Don't drink that water," and you were like, "I'm drinking it for Jesus."
Yeah, no. Although I have drank and eaten some really crazy stuff in different countries because you're supposed to, but whatever. All right, and because to be polite and responding to their hospitality towards you. But anyway, now I was in this country one time, and the missionary came up to me and said, "Hey, so are you open to doing open air preaching in this remote village?"
Yes.
And I was like, "Yeah, because I do open air preaching. Happy to do that." And he said, "Okay, but I up front, like this is pretty dangerous. Like I can't promise you full safety and protection. They have attacked the church there before." So to the point of the church not even meeting there anymore because they've been attacked. And I was like, okay. And he said, so what we will do is we will put people around you as you're preaching, and we will put people around like a boundary area. And I was like, okay. And so, and he was like, you sure you're still up for it? And I said, absolutely.
Cue the preacher suiting up montage.
I was like, yeah, let's do this. And
Dad, I'm going to die.
Today is the day. And so, yeah, so I preached, nothing happened.
Wow.
Like it was, we were cool. We were cool. And so, and that's the kind of, stuff you do. And
okay, so the question is, why do you think?
Right, but why is it so? I know.
So why do you think you thought that was the coolest thing ever?
I didn't think it was the coolest thing ever. I just was willing to. I felt like at that point in time, I was willing, and I guess I still am willing to go that far for my faith in Jesus. And so I think here's why I think it's so valued is because the individuals that have been martyred have paid the ultimate price for their faith, right? So like when they said we will follow Jesus, they were willing to follow him all the way to death. And so they're willing to die for what they believed in. And I think that's why they're honored. Because it's easy, like, especially in America where like, I'm not worried about being martyred. Like we gather freely, we worship freely, we preach and we proclaim, and people may say some mean things about us online or even to our face, or I've been cussed at while preaching. I've had things thrown at me while preaching, doing like open air preaching here in the States.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. But like, I'm not, I've never worried for my life while preaching here in the States, and so I think that when you have people that are willing to...
Would you like to be?
No, I'm good.
We can come up with some fake stuff to make you scared a little. If that'll make you feel good about yourself.
No, really. I mean, no, but all I'm saying is like, so here in America,
I'm gonna drive by, put some letters in your mailbox. Don't go preach on Sunday.
Right. Please don't. All right. So my wife will probably open it and then I'm really screwed. All right. So,
get your adrenaline rushing a little bit.
but I feel like it's, again, when I know there are people who are being not only persecuted in a worse way than we are here in the States, but also being martyred, you're like, okay, again, they gave all of their life for what they say they believed in, and so because, we say we believe in Jesus, we say we follow him, and I think most of us think we're willing to die for him and die for what we believe in, but, these people actually did. And so I think that's you honor them for willing, and some of them willingly dying, and then others, like when you're like the family from Australia, you're ambushed in a car and you're burned alive. So we can't really sit there are willing, not willing, but they had to know that the area they were in and what was going on in that area was dangerous, and yet they were still willing to proclaim the gospel, and it did cost them their lives. And so, I guess you honor individuals that are willing to do that.
Okay, so it seems like some Christians like are attempting to be martyrs constantly.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
or not martyrs, but at least persecuted.
Sure. Yeah,
and they'll sit around and only talk about Jesus forever in a conversation that is not about Jesus, until someone goes, would you shut up? And then they go, right. And then, okay, kill me now. That kind of thing. So okay. Why do Christians act like this?
Right.
And I guess, have you guys made martyrdom too cool?
You guys, now you're removing us.
I mean, you're the preacher man.
I know.
Have you made martyrdom so cool that people think,
okay,
or persecution so cool that people think they need to go around and look for it and try to receive it?
Yeah,
kind of like how you did in Wherever You Went, when you were like, I'm gonna get killed here and I'm not leaving till I'm dead.
Well, that's not the way I approached it. So I think that. So I think some of this comes back to Jesus' own words. Okay. So in John 15:20, Jesus said, "A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you."
Okay.
All right. And so,
the end of persecution is martyrdom, right?
Well, it can lead to that. It doesn't have to. And so I do think that there is this propensity in America to exaggerate how much we're actually being persecuted.
Okay.
Especially when you compare yourself to other parts of the world. But I think part of it is, I think some people almost feel guilty. One, because of it, they feel guilty there's not more persecution. Like when they see all that, Jesus hey, you're going to be persecuted if you follow me.
Yeah.
Well, where really is that persecution in the States? Right?
Right.
I mean, you may have some
you hear that, folks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm being honest.
We need some more Christian persecution here in America so that these Christians can feel better about themselves.
Well, so I think there's some guilt there, man, this should be harder, or whatever. But then too, I think that's, it kind of plays into today's, we've talked about this the last several weeks on a completely different subject, but just it's kind of the victim mentality of people.
Oh, so this is Christian victim mentality.
Yeah, it is. It's
okay,
poor me, someone gave me a bad look or didn't agree with me.
Yeah, probably because I'm Christian.
Right?
Dumb.
And you're just no, that wasn't why.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that there's a reality that, because for so long, Christianity was the majority religion in America.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but, at one point you had 90-something%, then 80-something%, say, hey, I'm Christian,
mm-hmm.
right? Even if they weren't going to church or aligning themselves with Christian values all the way, they would at least say, I'm Christian, right? Well, we know from stats, that's just gone down the tubes, right? That's not the case anymore. The rise of individuals that don't believe in any particular religion, right? They're more of the larger voice at this point, I think. And to where at least Christians, I think you can say, America's no longer majority Christian.
Mm-hmm.
It might be 50% of people maybe now would say I'm Christian, right?
Could you be a martyr for atheism?
Could you be a martyr if that was what you really believed in and someone killed you for it?
Yeah, but you don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
The definition of martyrdom is dying for believing
in something. Yeah, you don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
So they would say, oh, we believe in science.
Yeah,
right.
okay.
So it's
Dying for science.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's why that phrase none has really become a popular phrase, even more than atheism. Because it's like, I just don't care about anything.
Yeah,
like,
the
right?
atheists are kind of done.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the true atheism movement, and then you had like the new atheism movement.
Yeah.
And I feel like the new atheism movement was so illogical.
Yeah.
By people who were trying to be logical, that everybody was like, y'all sound crazy. And so forget y'all. And then I think like true atheists are kind of, I won't say dying out, but there's an older generation of that. And so, yeah, obviously there's still atheists out there, but there's a whole lot more of like what you call the nuns.
But they're just dumber now than they used to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think classical atheists were like real. And I think you still have people who are like that, right? Very well educated, very smart, classical atheists, got it. And so, but anyway, so in light of all this, I do think that our country is shifting away from being a Christian country, right?
Yeah.
So we're probably living in a post-Christian United States of America. And that's completely fine. Like, I mean, obviously, I wish everyone would know Christ, but that's the way our country has shifted. And so I do think because the country has shifted that way, that it's led to people feeling like that they are experiencing persecution because they won't let, it's not, you're not reciting the Lord's Prayer in school anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, which used to happen. You're not,
which means they're killing us,
right? Which means we're all persecuted.
Yeah.
And so I do think there is an over exaggeration of it to a degree, but I will say though that in saying all that, I am concerned that the country is moving toward a direction that would leave Christians vulnerable to hate speech crimes.
Okay.
And that would, like, that to me would, okay, now we're kind of starting getting into like what I would consider like real persecution levels, right? Like where you could actually be charged with a crime for saying things that you believe to be true as a Christian. That would be like more like true persecution than what we've experienced in our country up to this point.
Okay. The question that they always posed to us when they talked about martyrdom and how cool it would be to die for Jesus when we were in youth group was if someone had a gun to your head and said, do you believe in Jesus, yes or no?
Right.
You're supposed to say yes and then get your brains blown out.
Correct.
Okay. I call BS.
Okay.
Because that's stupid. So,
okay.
What say ye?
All right. Well, to me, all right. I remember actually in theology school.
Okay.
All right. So you're not the only one calling BS on this.
Good.
Right. So I remember in theology school, I was with a group of other students, and we were talking about this very topic. And I don't remember what led to the conversation. I think we were doing some kind of.
For some reason, this question is a conversation that happened so much when I was growing up.
Yeah, I don't know. And so, because I've never like, as a pastor, or even when I was a youth pastor, I've never been like, oh yeah, martyrdom's so cool. Like, I've just always like, no.
Except when you wanted to die and wherever you went.
Yeah, but I didn't. Well, I wasn't sitting around going, hey, I may die today. Watch this. This is gonna be awesome. Like, I wasn't doing that. It was just like,
I don't believe you.
It was a. Dude, I had a wife and kids. I was.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was very much aware of what I was getting myself into.
It's easier to martyr yourself when you're a single guy.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't say martyr yourself,
like
but
this question,
willing to throw yourself into a situation that can lend to it more easily. Sure. And so, but I think in this question, or like, so this group of students in theology school, we were talking about it, and I think we were studying different countries and Christianity in those countries, something like that. And the idea of martyrdom came up because people were being killed for their faith, And so then when we started asking, I think someone just said out loud, like, oh, I wouldn't do that. Like, so they were in theology school, being prepared to be a pastor. And they were like, no, if someone asked me to deny Jesus or die, they were like, I'm denying Jesus.
Mhm.
Like I'm going to live and believe that he'll just forgive me. Right.
Yeah.
That was their premise.
Or not care at all.
Right.
Why does he care?
Okay. So in light of that, I'll be honest with you, it kind of got in my craw a little bit. That was their response. Because I understand that every one of us we've never been faced with it, right? Like it's not even a real option at this point. And, if we're here in America, the chances of it happening are just so unbelievably microscopically slim, right?
Right.
And so it is much, we're talking about an abstract question in a lot of ways. Like, if this happens, what would you do? And I guess I would at least hope that on the abstract, we would go, no, we're going to say, yes, we believe in Jesus. We will confess that, even if that means death. Because if I'm going into it, now I don't know what would actually happen if someone's got a gun to my head, right?
Right.
But I would hope that I would have the guts, the nerve to be able to say, no, I will not deny Jesus, right? But if I've just already written that off as an option, I'm folding like a deck of cards, and so, or a house of cards. All right, here's why I think that we should not deny Jesus. Okay.
Okay.
All right. In light of this specific context.
Okay.
Okay. So, in responding to the call of Jesus, all right, we confess that we will deny ourselves, that we will take up our cross, and that we will follow him. Okay. All right. And then we're told that it's better to lose our life. Okay.
Okay.
And gain our soul, or our soul be with the Lord, right? That's better than to gain the whole world and to lose our soul. And so, in other words, it's better to lose our life. And in imitating Jesus, this is exactly what he did. He laid down his life for us.
Like when he was asked if he was... That's the only thing I thought of when I was writing this question.
Yeah.
When he was asked if he was God, he said, yeah, I'm God.
Yeah. He says, you said it,
Yeah.
And so...
That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
They're going to say, do you believe in Jesus? You said it.
Right. Well, then you're going to die. Right. And so...
No, it doesn't even answer the question right. That's what I'll do.
Yeah. That's what I'll do. Okay. And so I believe that, in our imitating Jesus, our following Jesus, if he's willing to lay down his life for us, so we should be so for him. And in particular, we're following a tradition of individuals who were willing to lay down their lives for the sake of the gospel,
Okay.
And so, when you look at Stephen and you look at James, in the scriptures, and then you look at all the others that have willingly given their lives for the sake of the gospel. And I just think to deny that would be to be so dishonoring of them, right? But so there's that, and then obviously
I'm okay with dishonor.
You're okay. You're okay or with dishonor.
Yeah.
Okay. So all right.
Call your dad a jerk or you die. Dad, you're a jerk. Oops.
All right.
Did I spit on you?
No, thank you. Thankfully. All right. So, all right, but let me just get to one more verse here.
Okay.
All right. So
I did ask you that in this question.
Yeah.
Are there any verses that say that I should say yes?
All right. Verse 33 of Matthew chapter 10.
Okay.
Whoever denies me before others, I will also deny him before my Father in heaven.
That's pretty straightforward.
That's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you all the follow-up questions.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
All right, so the next one is...
We're just moving quickly. Yeah.
No.
All right.
I'm asking you all the caveats.
Okay.
All right, so what if the question was, do you believe in Jesus? If you say no, or if you say yes, I'm going to shoot your wife and kids.
I'll still say yes.
That's dumb. Okay. Next
No,
one.
but it's not dumb. Like, it's not dumb. And I'm saying that with my child sitting here
I
in this
know.
room.
Yeah.
No, because here's the deal. I know, like it's better. I mean, like,
What?
I think here's the deal. Here's the deal. We value so much this earth and this temporal life.
I understand. Yeah, and I'm coming at this from someone who's said in past episodes that if God killed me now, that'd be great.
Right.
But I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, there's like what. When I said that before, I was shirking all my responsibilities as a husband now and a stepdad or whatever I am.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I guess I got to stay here and do that stuff.
Okay.
But in this scenario, it's like, am I going to say something one way to get around all those responsibilities? Like, it's like a get out of jail free card. It's Christian kryptonite.
Yeah.
It's like... This is how I die. I could go to the third world. Like, we could fly to a third world country right now.
Sure.
I could stand on not third world, wherever Christians are actually persecuted. Sure. And be like, I believe in Jesus. And then 50 people would kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we could do that right now.
Yeah. We could.
And me.
Yep. We could fly to somewhere in North Africa.
Yes.
The Middle East.
Yep.
Yeah. And it could happen.
And we could do it for Jesus, and that wouldn't be killing ourselves somehow, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you think you're going to go there to actually share the gospel.
Oh yeah.
Right? And that's like your motivation.
Jesus is awesome. You know what I mean? It'd be that easy.
Right. Well,
so this is all stupid. Anyway,
how was this stupid?
Because so would that be killing myself? If I did that on purpose?
If you did it on purpose, I'm going to go and die.
Yeah. If
that's your whole thing.
If I on purpose went to a country where Christians are persecuted, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I've always had this thought in my head.
Okay.
And I don't think I've ever verbalized it out loud, but I mean, this has been a thought in my head since
this is what we're doing.
My 20s.
Okay.
Is that when I'm older, you see where this is going? When I'm older, I've lived my life. I've done my thing. I have thought, would it be better if I just go to another country that I know, or a place or a village where the gospel has not gone, or where it's highly dangerous for the gospel to go? Would it be better if I went to that place to share the gospel, even if it cost me my life?
That's suicide. Is that not considered suicide?
Well, but I'm saying is, I'm willing to go and share the gospel, and if I die, I die.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not like I'm going in there going, all right, I'm going here to die. It's just I'm willing to. No, it's different.
Tomato.
I'm willing to lay down my life for the sake of the gospel. Because, like, what if I go share the gospel? They don't kill me. They come to know Christ. That's awesome. It's not like I'm sitting there going, oh man, they didn't kill me.
Guess I'm gonna have to go somewhere else.
Right. What's the next village on the map?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just,
you guys suck. You guys weren't persecuting enough.
No.
Whatever. See you in heaven.
Right.
Anyway, this is dumb.
Okay. It's not.
Okay, so what if someone asked the question and I was like, no? What if I did the thing where I held my fingers behind my back?
Right.
And said no?
You're still denying Jesus.
No, because I held my fingers behind my back.
I don't think that counts, Nate.
Come on.
Yeah.
This is dumb.
This is not dumb.
What if I just went...
You just mumble?
Yeah. What if I acted like a mute? And just didn't answer the question?
They're probably going to shoot you anyway.
Okay. Whatever.
So you're probably going to say yes.
So you would get your kids killed and I would try to... Okay. What if I could kill them first without answering the question?
Okay. So, like...
Someone's got a gun in my head and said, do you believe in Jesus?
Right.
But I've got a bigger gun.
Yeah.
In the front of my pants. And I could pull it out real quick and shoot them before they shoot me.
Self-defense.
But I never answered the question. Or do I have to do the
self-defense?
Or do I have to do the quippy thing like in the action movies where after I kill them, I'm like,
yeah,
yes.
The answer was yes. Yeah, I mean, I think if you can defend yourself, okay, go for it.
All right, fine. Okay. So then, yeah, the real question after that is why is hurting God's feelings so important that I not do in a situation where I could die or my family could die?
Right.
Like,
So,
why couldn't in the Bible him just say, yeah, like, I don't care. I can take it. I'm God.
right.
Like,
Right. But okay, so a couple things on this one though.
okay.
So number one, it's not like you're like the idea of hurting God's feelings. That's not it. It's the fact that we've come in to this, like, I think here's, I guess what I'm saying, going into the moment, because none of us know how we're going to actually respond in the moment, right? Like, I don't think most of us have a clue of that until you're there.
Oh,
okay?
well, I know.
All right. Well, yeah, you've already decided. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, so I would hope going into it that we're saying, God, I want to follow you all the way to the point of death. Okay?
Okay.
And then and then when that moment happens, I hope I have the nerve, I hope I have the conviction, the faith to say, yes, I follow Jesus. Okay? And then but then you're at that point and you don't, right? And you deny Christ. Okay? Am I saying that there's no forgiveness for you? No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
Because again, it's one thing for me to sit here in Georgia and
comfy America,
right, and
where
make
there's
these
no persecution,
right,
at
and
all.
make these statements, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so everything I'm talking about is in this abstract hypothetical, and so I just feel like,
what if they were going to nuke the Earth? What if you were on the Death Star?
So now we're bringing Star Wars into this. I don't
you,
even know where to go.
You
with
wouldn't
this
even say Dantooine.
No.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Darth Vader's like, do you believe in Jesus? Yes or no? And if not, I'm blowing up Alderaan. And
right.
You wouldn't say Dantooine.
Talking about answers not making sense in the question. That would be that. And then we got Darth Vader in the equation. Like, now this is so good off the rails.
Whatever. I'm just trying to figure it out.
I know.
I don't like this at all.
Jesus was willing to die for us.
So what should I believe about martyrdom?
That, what should you believe about martyrdom?
Yeah.
That martyrdom is the ultimate sacrifice in following Christ. We're talking about Christian martyrdom specifically. Yeah. That it's the ultimate sacrifice in following Christ. Mm-hmm. And that if as followers of Jesus, we're told that we are going to be persecuted, and that persecution may end in death. Okay. And if that's the case, then we, to even be so honored to be persecuted, to be so honored to die for Christ, mm-hmm. right? That would be an honor to do that for him. And so, and that we join a long list of individuals who have given their lives for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of Christ. And so therefore, I'm not saying that we need to be going out looking to be martyred, mm-hmm. right? There's wisdom in everything. Even Paul in Acts 9 was told, hey, if you don't leave, they're going to kill you. And he left, right? And so, because they knew there was a plot against Paul's life. Mm. And so, and even Jesus, there was a plot earlier on against him. And it says that
when he was a baby, right?
Well, the baby part, and his parents took him away. But then even when he was in ministry, and there was another time, and it says that Jesus basically just walked through the crowds and they just didn't even know basically where he was. And he talks about how it just wasn't his time to die, you know? So like we need to use wisdom. We're not just like running into death.
Did he put on a baseball cap and sunglasses?
Yeah, no. So we're not just like running for it, looking for it. But if we're put in that place where we either deny Jesus or die, we die. We choose death. And we accept it and thank God that we're, for the honor, honestly, of being martyred for the Lord.
It's just interesting that you're on the pro-death side of the table. That you're the pro-death side of the table, and I'm like the trying to be alive side.
Right.
It's just everything's upside down, twisty-turvy this time.
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
I'm like, no, Joseph, you have kids. And
right.
You're like, I don't care.
I do love my kids.
I'm going to Pakistan. Or whatever.
Right. Well,
Cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't know if Pakistan kills Christians, but
right. Well,
but I just picked a stand country because a lot of them do. Because I'm a racist.
Wow.
Or no, is that racist? I don't know. It's so hard to tell anymore. Well, this has been the When I Heard This podcast. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at When I Heard This podcast, and X and locals at When I Heard This. Go to Patreon, $5. Like, subscribe, share, comment, follow, download. Website, t-shirts, ring the notification bell, and tell everyone that you know about the show. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Nate Robinsoff, and you can follow Joseph on Instagram at
Rev Joe T.
This has been the When I Heard This podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.